link on the chat with for all of you. Jordan sent it to me last night, and it's a link about the Greater Toronto Hockey League, which is minor hockey.
Semi-minor hockey.
Yeah, and they're selling teams. Parents or wealthy investors who might be parents are buying teams, and we're talking $3 million. And when you read the article, it sort of talks about the lack of transparency and the way they operate. But Mike, as you know, it's the same as what you encounter. I'm not sure that um, the finances are as big an issue there, but I'm sure they still affect things in your minor hockey. But they're talking about coaches that are paid quite a bit of money, and the fact that people are buying teams so they can guarantee ice time. And Matt Dunba and a number of other NHL players have invested in those teams, trying to maintain a sense of inclusion in their programs. But it's an article worth reading down the road, because I don't think it's any different than what you're facing in minor hockey, Mike. Is the people are just trying to look after their own interests in the best way they know how, and they just keep banging their heads. But I don't know what to say.
It's interesting only because the way the GTHL is formatted, and you have like a governing body, and you have to, I'm sure you have to buy into, some of the issues are you have to actually you have to buy into having a franchise in the GTHL. So there's already inherently, an ROI in there that they're building in. It's not like you just say, my team wants to go in the GTHL. You have to buy in, right? And that's it. So I don't really, it's funny. I've changed my tune on this, I guess, but I've never begrudged a parent that has money that, the whole thing about giving their own kid an opportunity. I've always looked at it as, well, if I could get that person, I'll give you an actual real life example. So when I had gotten done coaching a little bit college hockey, I came back and I started a program called the Snapple Express, which was down here at the time. It was in the the mid 90s, and it basically was the Little Caesars, kind of level. If you've heard of Little Caesars or, all these the Mission, Chicago Mission, things like that. So one Nelson Peltz, who was I had approached him. He had 2 kids at that age group, like an 8-year-old and a 11-year-old. And I said, hey, what would you think about sponsoring? And he owned Snapple. And he owned Tiffany's. He owns Arby's. He owns a big. I said, well, what do you think about, helping me start a program? And he said, yeah, well, what is it going to cost me? I gave him the figure and told him, oh, you'd be our main sponsor. And he said, well, I don't want any other people involved. They're just going to buy it. And so he purchased the whole thing, right, and made the financial investment. At the time, his oldest wouldn't have made one of the top teams, and if it was a clear-cut tryout. But obviously, we put the kid on the team, and my argument was, well, by him doing that, it benefited 120 other kids that were all in our program, all because he was very, he wanted to make sure his kid was in the right environment. So I did, I always, I think it's circumstance to circumstance. What you're saying, I think, in the GTHL side is they're actually selling and buying organizations like on a daily basis to strategically move tons of players in to dominate in that particular division. And, that's the way we're structured down here. You could just start another team. You could start another program and you have a team. I mean, you just say, okay, all my kids are going here, and then you go play the games.
Mike, I put my hand up because I thought of exactly what you said. Father purchases team, kid makes the team. I have no issues with that. It's how the bench is managed when he makes the team. does he get to play all roles? Do all players play all roles the first half and earn roles the second half? And I believe that in minor hockey, they don't. We're not even talking investment, spring, you name it. In minor hockey, they don't allow them to play and develop and earn their roles. And that's if that parent and that family and that team was operated in an earn your role philosophy versus, well, his kid's going to get more ice time than others, then I think we have a problem. And I think the concern with Matt Dunda and some of the ethnicity of the issues in the Greater Toronto League are just kids being able to afford an opportunity to play at that highest level. And there's going to be a little bit of investigation going on with it, but Jordan opened the can of worms, and I thought I would bring it up. So,
unfortunately, right, kids don't play, whether a parent owns the team or not. So it's like, well, I'd rather have the parent investing and saying, hey, listen, your son's going to get a chance to play, and hopefully it's going to be it's funny, the whole ethical coaching thing came up in a podcast I was on last night with a couple of pretty big hockey guys down here in the U.S. And we were laughing how that's what's needed, right, the most in our sport and above everything else. And but this falls in line with that. Like, okay, who's the ethical director of the GTHL, and who's overseeing these transactions, and who's overseeing whether or not it's affecting the play in each organization or not? And then when you're buying an organization and you're representing a GTHL franchise, are you doing it in a way that is benefiting the sport? And I'd probably lean on the fact that you're not, but